everyone. Right, so today I'm going to be making a small parts jig out of offcuts I've got lying around in the workshop. So here I'm just starting to mark out the dovetails. I always use a red pen when marking out dovetails. It's much easier to see than a pencil line. Here I'm just marking the waist. It's a good thing to do because the amount of times you cut on the wrong side of the line. Here I'm just going back through my cuts to make sure they're all down to my gauge line. It makes it so much easier cleaning out the waste, which you'll see in a bit. The kerf of the blade on my fret saw is wider than the kerf on my pull saw. So what I do is I just run a cut straight down the middle of the waist, then I go through and cut everything out to the left, and then I go back through and cut everything to the right. It just saves damaging that sort of perfect cut that you've got from your pull saw. So now I'm just chiseling back to my gauge lines. Here I've got it's a Narex chisel. Now, although they're a good all-round chisel, they're not really ideal for dovetails. Having said that, you can still achieve good results with them. So here I'm starting to cut the pins. A very important aspect to cutting dovetails, I feel, is having good lighting. You can have all the best tools in the world and your setting out can be perfect, but if you can't see your lines, you can't precisely cut to them. So this is the bed that will ride up and down, and I'm just cutting out the wedge shape. You'll see a bit later on how the mechanism for this works. So here I'm just creating the rebates that the hand plane will ride on. I've used oak for these sides because hopefully it should wear quite well. I went slightly deeper than I needed here. It just gives the plane a little bit of wiggle room should there be any wood movement later down the line. So here we are at the glue up stage, and as you can see I'm using a polyurethane glue here. I much prefer using polyurethane for dovetails for a number of reasons really. One, it actually helps the joint slide together easier, and two, you tend to get longer working times with polyurethane glues. This glue here, the brand is Titebond, and I find with what foams up with this brand, it almost crystallizes and it cleans off so easy. So this is definitely my glue of choice for dovetails. The dovetails for this project, they're not there to add any strength. They're just there for looks really. Obviously what with lockdown at the moment I had the time, so I thought I may as well. I had to be very careful at this stage to clamp this up evenly. If one end went before another, the pins would snap off. So yeah, I got lucky on this one. So here I'm just routing in some slots, and what these are for, later on I will put some screws that will go into the wedges. The wedges need to be kept firmly to the base. If they move around at all, it will just affect how precise the jig is. This is my technique for putting in threaded inserts. If you put it into the bolt and then tap it, get it started with a hammer, the bolt will exaggerate if you're going wrong. It nearly works every time. So here I'm making a recess for the plastic rule to sit into. This will just help me more precisely line up the jig. I'm now applying the finish, and it's just a quick drying varnish. This is the bed, and as you can see I clamped some 120 grit sandpaper to it. Hopefully this will just help to stop the little pieces sliding around when I'm planing them. So off camera I made all the knobs. I made them from Paduke, which I had an offcut left from a coffee table I made a while back. So here I'm now putting these screws in to the underside of the wedges. I'm using pocket hole screws because they have a flat head, so it will slide in the slot perfectly for what I need. So these are the vision panels, and what I'm doing here is using my marking gauge to scratch on a line. So I'm going to then fill that line with my blue permanent marker. Now when these are in place, that blue line will give me a reference line, which you'll see in a sec. So here's a first look of how the mechanism works. As you can see, the wedges are independent, so you can operate them separately, which means this is also a tapering jig. So it's finally time to put everything together. I didn't like how the end piece worked, so I changed the design slightly. It basically got in the way of the bottom adjustment knob. So after all that, let's see if it works. yeah, the jig seems to work fine. It does everything I intended it to do. Right, hopefully you guys made it to the end. If you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Cheers guys.